we're going to finish up with 5.6 part 2. So just a couple kind of quick things to remember. What makes an inequality different from an equation? You'll see something different. A lot of it will be the same, but one thing will be different. Yeah, when you have an inequality, you're not going to have an equal sign. You're going to have like a greater than, a less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. So that's just a reminder about an inequality. You don't have a specific spot to write that down. Okay. What happens if an inequality only has one variable? Like y is less than 3 or x is greater than -4. What do we call those? Yeah? Yeah, that's a special case. What if you just have a y? What kind of line do you end up drawing? Yep. Horizontal. Horizontal. Could be solid or it could be dotted, but it's going to be horizontal. And what if you only have an x? What kind of line do you end up drawing? Yeah? Vertical. Yep. So in the case of y, it's horizontal. And in the case of vertical, that's when you just have the x. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Did you guys, on your guided notes yesterday, I think we already did it, but did you have a chance to fill in chart for special cases? All right. Just remember, the only thing that's a little different is the shading. And I think I wrote this yesterday, or Tuesday I wrote it. If you have a greater than, that's above. And if you have a less than, it's below. But what about when it's vertical? If you have a greater than and it's vertical, you don't have an above and a below. Where do you shade when it's greater than and the line is up and down? Yeah?
The right.
Yeah, you shade to the right. And when it's less than, you shade to the left. Good. Okay, so that's the only thing that's. I think we added that in yesterday. All right, let's try some examples. Okay, we'll do this one together, and then I'll let you guys do one on your own, and then we'll do one together, kind of thing. Okay, so first example says y is less than or equal to 4. Okay, so Cadence, is this a special case or a regular case? How come? It's just a y? All right, how many people either agree, or if you don't agree, what kind of case do you think this is? Yeah? Yeah, it is a special case. Can someone else tell me why? Why is it a special case? Okay, Caleb?
There's no x and y, there's only just a y.
There's only just a y. So if you only have one variable, that is a special case. All right, so when you only have y, Finn, what kind of line am I going to draw?
Straight line. Just a flat line.
Can you describe the direction?
Cross.
Yeah, so like horizontal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're gonna draw it horizontal. And Joe, is it gonna be solid or is it gonna be dotted?
Solid.
Right, it's gonna be solid because it has the equal to symbol. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a horizontal line, but I need to put it somewhere. What number do they want me to put this horizontal line at? Can't just put it anywhere. Yeah? Yeah, they want it at 4. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there. Okay. Is there anything else I need to do to graph that inequality?
Yeah. You have to shade.
I have to shade. And Caleb, can you tell me, where am I going to shade?
When you shade below it?
Yes, you always shade below when it's a less than, unless it's vertical, then you shade to the left. Okay, so shade below. And again, if you don't, you don't have a highlight or anything, just go like that. That's good. All right, so if we were going to pick coordinates that are going to work in this problem, we can pick anything in the shaded area. Or is the line part of the solution or not part of it? If it's right on it. The line is part of it. It's called the boundary line. The boundary line is part of the answer this time because it's solid. All right, any questions on that? All right, actually, I think I have another one further down. Yep. All right, so why don't you guys try that one? X is greater than -3, and then do that in the box that says example 1b. And if you get stuck, just call one of us over and we'll help you out. Okay, so as I walked around, most people recognize it is a special case because you only have an X and no Y. Sometimes special cases are harder. Actually, special cases easier because you don't have to deal with the y-intercept and the slope and then put points. You just need to put a vertical or horizontal line. And that's it. All right. So, Micah, what's this one? Is it going to be vertical or horizontal?
Vertical.
Vertical? And is it going to be solid or dotted?
Solid.
How come? Not sure. Anyone else think it's going to be solid? You could tell me why it would be solid. Okay. So if we don't think it's solid, then could somebody tell me why you think it's not going to be solid? Yeah?
It's going to be dotted because there's no line.
Right. There's no line under the inequality. There's no equal to right there. So because we don't have that, it's going to be dotted. So it's going to be a vertical dotted line. So I'm just going to put it off to the side. And where do they want me to put it? It has to go through a certain number. Yeah?
-3 on the x-axis.
-3. Yep. So I'm going to drag it over until I get it to -3. So that's at 2, 1. That's 0. -1, -2, -3. Okay. So the way I'll grade that is if you get that far, you get half credit because you put the right kind of line in the right spot. But the last thing I have to do is, shade. And because it's vertical, we don't have an above and a below. We got a left and a right. Where do I shade in for left or right?
Oh, right.
Yeah, we're going to shade to the right because it's a greater than. So you shade everything to the right. And this time, is the boundary line part of the solution? Could I pick a point right on that line and say, yep, it'll work? Yep?
No.
No. You can't pick a point on the boundary. You have to stay in the shaded area. All right. Any questions on that? All right. So we've done a lot with special cases. Let's try a regular case. Now, before we graph anything, if it's a regular case, what letter do we want to make sure is by itself? If this doesn't happen, we're not going to be able to get the slope and the y-intercept. Yep?
Why?
Y. Yep. It has to be in the form y, m, x, and then b. It has to be like that. This one already is. If we're going to do one in a minute, that's not. All right, so there's our graph. What number, Alyssa, what number do we look at first there when we're graphing? The y-intercept. Can you tell me what the y-intercept is? It's 5. And what do you do with the 5? Graph 5 on the y-axis. Perfect. 2, 3, 4. So we put a dot at 5. Now the next number we look at is the slope. Joe, what's my slope? -2. And we need the slope to always be what kind of number? Because we're going to use it as like directions. Think about how we write slope. We usually have to have a what? Well, that's the format of the whole thing, but this is just the m. We need the m to be it has to be a fraction. So what could I put in the bottom that would make that a fraction? 1. Now we can use these two numbers as directions, almost like a set of stairs. Can anybody tell me, using the slope, where am I going to go from this point to get another point? Yep.
Down 2 over 1.
Down 2,
Right 1.
right 1. So we're going to go down 2, right 1. And on edge elastic, that's all you got to do. You do 2 points, it's going to draw the line. When I do it by hand, I like to do a few more. Make sure those are straight. That looks good. Okay, I'm going to draw a line through all those points. Annika, what kind of line am I going to draw? Solid line or dotted? Right, this one's going to be dotted because it does not have that symbol. If it had it like that, this would be solid. Like that, it's going to be dotted. Okay, so I need a dotted line. Let's see, a little bit off. That'll be good. Good enough. Okay, so there's my line. And how about Mia? What's the last thing I gotta do? Shade. And where am I gonna shade this time? Yeah, it's like to the left, like below, right? Because it's this area would be like above the line. This area down here would be below the line. So we're gonna shade everything that's below. Just like that. That's it. Any questions on that one? So the way that part's going to work on edge elastic is once you put a line, you'll be able to click on one side of it, and it's going to shade the whole thing for you. If you make a mistake, you can always just hit reset and just do the shading again. All right. Abby, in this one, which letter was already by itself?
The Y.
The Y. Okay, and that's what we want. In example 2b, it's not. I'm going to fix that. I want to change one of those numbers, so don't write that yet. Let's just make this a 4. Just going to make the numbers come out nicer. So it's 4x plus 2y is greater than or equal to 8. Okay. We're not ready to graph that yet. We don't know the slope or the y-intercept. We don't know that because what letter is not by itself? Yeah.
Y.
We don't have y by itself. That's the first thing we have to do before we even look at the graph. Okay, so let's put that over there. And let's move this over here. Can anybody tell me, there's going to be 2 things I need to do to get y by itself. We have to move this, and then we have to move the 2. Which one do I move first? Yeah. The what? The 4x. Yep. And how would you put this 4x on the other side? Perfect. You're going to minus 4x minus 4x. Okay, it's gone from the left. What do I have on the left side now? Yep. 2y is greater than or equal to. And now, when you write it in the format we want, do you want to put the number with x first or the number without x first? Yep.
With x, right?
With x first. What's my number with x?
It is 4x. No, 2. Oh, it's negative 4x.
Negative 4x. So that's the number with x. And then what's the number without x? That's on that side. Yep. Plus 8. Okay. Is that good? Is that the format we want? No. Why are you saying no?
Because
The y is still not by itself. It's better, but it's not there yet. You still have the 2 with it. So how am I going to get rid of that 2? Yep.
Divide by 2.
Yep. Remember, when you divide, you have to do it everywhere. Now, it didn't happen in this problem, but what would I have had to remember to do? We haven't talked about this in a while. If I had divided by a negative, something happens if you divide by a negative. We didn't do it. It could happen, yeah?
You would have to flip the sign.
Right.
Oh,
If-
I'll put it back.
If we had divided by a negative, we would need to flip the sign and have it pointing to the left. Since we didn't divide by a negative, we don't have to flip it. Okay, so now we've got y is greater than or equal to. What's negative 4x divided by 2? Yep. Negative 2x. And the last part, what's positive 8 divided by 2? 4. So now you are ready to graph it. So what you guys, from there, see if you can graph that and then put your line, whether it's solid or dotted, and then shape. But that's the first step you had to do. All right, so let's take a look at this one. So we had to do a little bit of work first to get the y by itself. We did that. And now, Natalie, what number do I focus on first?
4.
The 4? And how am I going to put the 4 on my graph?
You need to put it on the y-axis.
We need to put it on the y-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So we put a dot on the 4. How about, Mia, what's my slope as a fraction? So we're going to make it negative 2 over 1. So how do these two numbers tell me to move from this point? Down 2 and right 1. Right? And we can do that a few times if we want. And then we're going to draw our line. Sean, what kind of line this time and why that kind of line? Well, what are our two choices? Dotted line and that's one choice, and the other choice is not sure. Can anyone remind him what's the other choice? Dotted and yep.
Full line.
Full line. What do you mean?
Like just like straight line.
Straight line. So all lines are straight. And I think I know what you mean, but I'm just trying to make sure I know what you mean. Yep.
Solid.
Solid, right? Solid means there's no breaks in it. So solid line versus broken line, dotted line. Okay, and then which one do you think this one is, Sean? Solid or dotted?
Solid.
Yeah, it's going to be solid because you've got that symbol underneath it. So let's draw our line. Did okay at the time. Not bad. So there's my line. And now the shading. Michael, is that going to be a shade above or below? That's above because it's a greater than. So above means up here. That's above. Okay, any question on that one? All right, so let's see. Let's try this one. Do you guys already have that printed on the guided notes? Okay. Perfect. Make sure the numbers are the same. $10, $2.50, $1. Okay, perfect. So problem says you can spend at most $10 on grapes and apples. It says grapes cost $2.50 a pound, apples cost $1 a pound. Write and graph an inequality that represents the number of grapes and apples you can buy. Okay. So you guys already have a graph, I think. Fruit salad. Yep. So you guys get the same graph on your notes. Okay. So let's kind of maybe underline what we think is important. What's something in that sentence that you think is important that's going to be part of the inequality when we write it? Yeah?
$10 at most.
Yeah, $10 and at most. So let's think about what symbol that would be. If I said to you, I have at most $10 on me right now, how much money does that mean I could have? If I said to you, I have at most $10. Yeah?
Less than or equal to $10.
Right. This whole thing is going to mean something is less than or equal to $10. What's going to be less than or equal to $10? The amount of money we spend on grapes and apples. We can't spend more than $10. All right? So this is kind of the idea of what we're doing. So what we spend is less than or equal to $10. What we have to figure out now is how do we represent what we spend. So there's more information in this problem that's important. What else is important? Yeah?
$2.50 per pound.
So grapes are $2.50 a pound. And what else is important? One more thing. Yep.
Apples are $1.
Apples are $1 per pound. Okay, so we're gonna need some letters. I would say, what would be a good letter to use for grapes? Yeah, sure. G, it's a good letter. Doesn't look like a number. G is grapes. And what would be a good letter for apples? Yeah, A. And how are we measuring how we buy grapes and apples? We're measuring the cost by the, we pay for them by the what? Yeah, per pound. So I'm going to add pounds of grapes and pounds of apples. So G represents the number of pounds of grapes. A is pounds of apples. Now, if I bought 1 pound of grapes, based on that information, can somebody tell me how much it would cost if I bought 1 pound? Yeah? $2.50. What if I bought 2 pounds? And I'm more interested with how you figure it out. That's what I want to know. If you buy 2 pounds, how would you figure out what you're going to pay? Yeah?
$2.50 plus $2.50 is $5.
Okay. And what's another way of saying 250 plus 250? Yeah? Multiply by 2. So it's 250 times 2. What if I bought 3 pounds of grapes? How would I figure out the price? Yep. Multiply it by 3. Well, if I buy this many pounds of grapes, I multiply it by G. So it's what we spend on grapes is $2.50 times the number of pounds we buy. 2, 3, 4, whatever it happens to be. Now, we're not just buying grapes, we're also buying what for the salad? Yeah? Apples. So we got to add more to what we spend. Like we did with grapes, how would you represent how much you spend on apples? If apples are $1 a pound and you buy this many pounds of apples. Yeah? Multiply the cost per pound, which is $1, times how many pounds you buy. So that's going to be the cost is $1 times A. This represents what we spend. And we know we can't spend more than $10. All right, so we've done the first part. Write an inequality. The second part is graph. Now, we don't have an x and a y in this equation. So we got to think about it a little bit. What letter do we normally get by itself? Yeah? Y. So then look at your graph. Look at the y-axis. What letter is on the y-axis in this problem? Is it grapes or is it apples? Yeah? Apples. Apples is what's on the y-axis. So that means that is the letter you want to get by itself. Apples. If you want to really think of this problem, it's really like this is your x and over here is your y. X is going to be grapes, that's going to be on the horizontal. Apples is going to be y, and that's on the vertical. So there's only one thing I need to do to get A by itself. Anybody tell me the one thing? Yeah, subtract 2.50g. So we're going to get A is less than or equal to, and you said subtract the 250g. And what other number is still going to be after the 250g? And that's going to be like my y-intercept. Yeah? Positive 10. There's the inequality you have to graph. Again, if it confuses you, just pretend that's a y and that's an x. Okay, so what's my y-intercept here? Yep, 10. So let's put a dot on it. And what's my slope? Yeah? And we want to think of it as a fraction. So I could make it negative 2.5 over 1. Okay, so here's the top number in your slope. Here's the bottom number. So from this point, which way do I go to get to another point? Yeah? Down how many? 2. So down 2.5. And then over how many? 1 to the right. So we're going to go down 2.5. 1, 2.5. And then go 1 to the right. And this time, let's keep going till we hit the end. Because we're gonna hit the edge of the graph really quick. So go down 1, 2.5. Right 1. Go down 1, 2.5. Right 1. And I think I can do it one more time. Down 1. Actually, yeah, I think I can go down 2.5. 1, 2.5. Right 1. I think if I did that right, I think I end up right there. It's a little weird with the half. We don't usually have a half, but we did. Okay, solid or dotted line? Yep.
Solid.
Solid. And you don't have to keep the line going on forever, because think about, it wouldn't make sense to go in the negatives, because there's no such thing as negative pounds of apples or negative pounds of grapes. So when you're dealing with money, you just draw your line, and you can stop right there. All right, now, where would I shade? Above the line? or below the line? Yeah, below, because we had a less than. So you can shade everywhere. I need a little bit smaller highlighter to kind of finish that. Right in there. So now, looking at that graph, could somebody give me an example of a number of pounds of grapes you could buy and a number of pounds of apples you could buy? And we got to make sure the cost is in the green section, because that's what we can afford. So one thing we could do, we don't have to spend all the money we have, but we got to stay in under the amount. Can't go over $10, yeah?
3 pounds grapes, 4 pounds of apples.
So 3 pounds of grapes, 4 pounds of apples would put you right there. So would that be in the green section? No. So we don't have enough money to afford 3 pounds of grapes and 4 pounds of apples. What's something else we could try to buy? Yep. 2.5 pounds of grapes, okay. And how many pounds of apples? 4. 2.5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So that puts us, I think, right on the line. So we can just barely afford that. But we're going to spend all our money to do that. What's something else we could buy? And you don't have to be on the line. You can be anywhere in the green. So I'd pick a safer option. Yeah.
1 pound of grapes, 3 pounds of apples.
Sure. 1 pound of grapes, 3 pounds of apples. You absolutely can afford that, and you still have some money left because you didn't spend it all. You could also buy 2 pounds of grapes and not buy any apples at all. So anywhere in here would be a solution to the problem. Anything outside the green, you can't afford it. Okay, any questions on that? All right, so just a reminder, even if you don't want to take the extra credit because you don't want to do it, if you take the extra credit, it's still a good study guide for the test. That worksheet on the Thursday bin will tell you what's going to be on the test. The homework for tonight, that's the 5.6 Part 2 worksheet on Schoology. And remember, today is the last day for term 3. Grades, I'm going to do your grades tomorrow.